Hello Chappets. Before you ask yourselves, what have the Romans ever done for us? I'll tell you what they've done for me personally. Now, if they haven't traversed this part of France many moons ago and planted the vineyards, I would not have the wonderful job that I have. So what have the Romans done for us apart from sanitation, irrigation, medicine, public order, wine, the roads, the fresh water? They made dice games popular. That's what they did. And how do I know that? Because I read it in a book. Last year at Essen I played a bucket load of games, and it seemed like every game that I played had dice in it, and they were either a dice worker placement game or a Yahtzee style dice throw the game and save your results, and they were all kind of like, yeah, been there, done that, seen that, got a t-shirt. But one game that came out last year called Rome Rise to Power is a dice game, and it's a little bit different to the others. But should it go down with Pompeii, or should it go up onto the highest echelons of power? Let's find out. In Rome, to win effectively, you will need to strategically conquer certain zones on the map. Also, you'll need maybe a senator or two in your back pocket, which will pay out really well. You will also have to have the majority of one of the three resources, which will give you extra points. And you may have to put on a circus or two, just for a good laugh. And this will all be done not with a sword, but with 4 dice. To set up the game, players will choose one of the 4 colours. You will collect the 4 dice of your colour, you will collect the 5 discs of your colour, and you will collect the arch tokens of your colour. Now, these arch tokens are used with the map to mark which territories you have conquered, so everyone can see who owns what. The discs you will take 3 of them and place them on the tracker here. There's 3 tracks. There's a wine track, an olive track, starting from the top, olive track, wine track, and jewelry track to keep note of. You will also take another disc, and this will keep track of the players' turns, in which order the players go in, and then the last disc will go onto the score track to keep track of the scores. There's also this little time token which keeps track of the rounds. There'll be 5 rounds during the game, and at round 3 and at round 5 there is scoring. Okay, the next thing we do is set up these 3 tracks. We have a military track, which is where we're going to be conquering zones. We have a Senate track, which will let us have powers to manipulate our dice. And we also have a black market track, which we're going to use to put on a circus with. Each one of these tracks comes with its own deck of cards, and you're going to need to sort these out beforehand. So, as we can see in the military track, these are going to be the zones that we're going to conquer. And when I say you need to sort them out, they have these little numbers on them. 3, 2, and 1. So you're going to need to make a pile of each of them, shuffle each of those piles, and then put the 3s on the bottoms, the 2s on the top, and the 1s on top of those. This will give you your starting zones to conquer. Then you will place out 4 of these, and they should all be level 1s or act 1s, like so. And these will be the places that you can conquer. And the information that you're going to need to know on these is how much force you're going to have. you're going to need 5 force to conquer this zone, this lower region of France here. It will give you a army base, and it will also give you 1 on the track for wine. Again, this one's 5. It'll give you an arena, and it will give you 1 on the track of olives, etc, etc. And as this deck goes on, they're going to require more and more force, and maybe they give you some more different things. There's more jewelry at the end there. The senator track is basically the same. You'll have to sort them out 1, 2 and 3. There may be some cards that you may have to remove due to the fact that they might be, if it's your first time, you've got these little flags here. You can remove those ones because their powers are a bit extreme. And again, you place them in 1, 2 and 3. So the first 4 cards that I'm going to turn over here are all going to be level 1s. And they will tell you what your powers are, okay? And when you get one of these, to activate the power, you will need a temple, or you need an army base. And each of these powers gives you a different thing. So this one will let you re-roll as many dice as you want. This one will give you a +1 on the military track. I could go on and explain some of the other powers, but I won't do. Finally, we have the Black Market deck. You will just need to shuffle these and then place out 5 of these cards. Right, these are in 3 colours. You have Romans in blue, Barbarians in black, and Animals in tan. Okay, they also have these little logos to tell you which colour is which, and they also have a value on them as well of how much they cost. So that is the setup done. How does the game play? Now, as I said, this game is over 5 rounds, and every round you'll be rolling your dice, and then you'll be adding up the results of your dice, and this will decide the player order. So in this case, we have red with a massive score, where blue is not so high. So red's going to be last, and blue will be first. And then on your turn, what you'll be doing is you'll be taking one of your dice, not changing the result, and then placing it onto one of the 3 tracks. Now this is where the game comes into its own, because it has its own very special rule about how these tracks work. Let me show you. So how does this dice system work? Well, let's start with the red player, for example. They play a number 6 on the military track. It would go into this first box here. Now let's say that a 6 is like someone with a lot of power. So let's say that a 6 represented a kind of Caesar. Okay, he has a lot of power, which means that the 6 is strong, which is kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yes. Yes, 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 you say. Okay. Next, we have the blue player. The blue player is going to play a 3, which will be, say, equivalent to a general. Now, the 3 is smaller and quicker and does a lot more things, so it will push this 6 along the queue. Now, the red player, on the next turn, they could play any other number that they want, because everybody follows a Caesar. So let's just say that the red player plays a 4, which is an equivalent to a senator. So the senator is now following Caesar. So that makes sense. And it's quite a strong force there of 10. Now the blue player, he could not play a senator or anybody higher. He could not play a 4, because a senator is not going to follow a general. But he would have to play a 3, a 2 or a 1. So in this case he played a 2, which is a soldier, and that would follow. So you can see how this works. It's a bit like a supermarket queue, and someone with fewer items can push in front of you, so to speak. So if, let's say, another player played a 1, guess what's going to happen? Yeah, they're all going to move along. And what's the importance of this? Well, the importance is the yellow player here would be the first person to take one of these cards in this row. followed by the blue player, and followed by the red player. And obviously, the strength of the dice is going to make things happen or not happen for you. Let me go through each of these tracks individually, what would happen. So on this military track, yellow would go first. They have a power of 1. With military, you need the power which is equivalent to what's marked on the card. So yellow would get to choose first, but wouldn't be able to conquer one of the zones due to the fact that they only have a force of 1. So they wasted a dice. Blue would then get to choose next. And they choose, let's say they take that card, and they remove their dice. And then red would go. And because they got a value of 10, they can actually take 2 of these zones. Now, the senator track works differently. I'll use the same results as before to show you the difference. Yellow will be the first player, and they will get to take 1 senator because they've used 1 dice. So they take a senator. Blue has 2 dice, which means that they can take 2 senator cards. And then red can take 2 as well, but there's only 1 left. So they take whatever's left. And so you can see if there was another player that had a dice on there, they'd go to Rome empty-handed. Now, on the black market deck, it works again. The value of your pips is actually the value of money that you can have. So yellow has a value of 1. There's nothing here that they can buy for a value of 1, so therefore, again, they've wasted that dice. Then it would move to blue. Blue has a value of 5, which means that they could buy this card and this card, because that's 2 and that's 3. Or they could buy these 2 cards, or if they wanted to, they could draw 1 card from the top of the deck, and that costs 5 on its own. So again, if all the cards have been bought already, and you've got a load of money, and there's nothing left for you to take, you can spend 5 to buy a card from the deck. So in case of red's case here of 10, he could buy 2 cards and add them to his hand. A bit too big for you, isn't it, Asterix? Just to recap quickly, players will roll their dice and then determine player order by the value of their dice. They will then take it in turn to place 1 dice at a time on one of the 3 tracks, and then you will resolve each track taking cards in the order of how the dice are placed and the value of those dice. Now, over the course of the game, you will accumulate a handful of cards, and some of these cards are very useful, like the Senator cards. These have special powers which you will need to activate to mitigate the rolls of your dice. How? How is simple. If I wanted to activate this power here, I would just have to play one of my continent zones with the same building. So in this case, I have a temple, and I play it in front of me like so. And so this power would let me make the value of all my 4 dice be 3 minus, which would give me a chance of being first player. Here, if I played the Colosseum with this chap, I could adjust the value of one of my dice by 1, either up or down. This chap here, he needs 2 army camps. You'd need to place them underneath to make the value of his military plus 3 to the value of his dice, and so on and so on. There's some cards which let you have extra victory points at the end of the game, so you can have extra victory points for each continent you have, or you can just have extra victory points, and some of them give you extra resources. And at the end of the round, you just put these cards back in your hand because they're like a one-time use, and then you can use them for the next round. At the end of the round, all the remaining cards that are left you remove, and then you place out new ones ready for the next round. After round 3 and 5, you will do a scoring round. You will score for the resources, and you will score for a circus that you set up. But on the last round, you won't just score for your resources and the circus, you will also score for your territories that you've matched. How's the scoring work? Well, you must remember first, every time that you conquer a terrain, to move the resource track which is marked on the card up 1 in your colour, because otherwise you won't get it. And also to place one of your arcs in the zone that you have conquered. Scoring the 3 resources. So you will get 1 point for every person that is behind you on that resource track. So in the case of the red and the yellow on the olive track, they will get 2 points plus 1 extra. Okay, so they will both get 3 points. The pink will get 1 point because the blue's behind him, plus 1 extra. So purple will get 2 points. Blue is still on the starting track, and because you're still on the starting track, you get zip. 0, nada, yada, bang. And you do this for all 3 of the resources tracks. So let's just do another example. For the wines, red would get 3 points plus 1. Yellow would get 2 points plus 1. And pink and blue would get 0 points plus nothing. So those circus cards that you thought did nothing, they actually do something on round 3 and 5. You put on a show, and as you can see, they're like poker hands. So you can have any 3 cards just to get 1 point. You can have any 3 different cards to get 2 points, etc. And you can have a battle royal, which will be 2 barbarians and 3 Romans, which give you 5 points. And whoever puts on the best show will actually also get a victory point extra. And only in round 5 you will score for the continents that you have conquered. If per chance you have conquered all 3 zones, like the yellow has here, you will score 3 points for that area. If you have the majority, so in this case purple has the majority here, 2 against 1, means they get 2 points for that zone. And if there's equality, so like here we have yellow, red and purple, everyone just gets 1 point. You will also add up the points that you get from your bonus characters, your senators, and the player with the most points at the end of the game is the winner. So let's sum up Rome Rise to Power. It is a board game that everybody should demand to get reprinted. Now that might sound nasty, but it's not actually nasty at all. This is a really good game, but unfortunately it's hidden behind layers of bad graphicism, bad art, bad colour choices. It's been a nightmare to get this game to the table due to the fact that every time I take it to a games night, there's lots of other more attractive games around and people would rather play them than this. Now before we go into the very negative things that I have to say about this game, let's stick with the positive things, because you might not agree with my negativity about the artwork. The positive things, this game is very quick. It's about 30-45 minutes to play. Your first games will always be long due to the fact that there's going to be a lot of referencing of the rulebook of what the special powers are, because on the back all the special powers are there, and that would go into a negative thing that I want to talk about later on. And also the hands of cards that when you put on a circus is also inside the book, so people are going to be referencing that, so that's going to take a bit of time until people get used to it. But the game just plays really well. You're rolling your dice, and then you have this level of looking at what the other players have and thinking how they're going to use their dice, where they're going to go for. And you have to really strategize what's the best use of your dice. Do you want to screw other people over by like jumping this queue? And that's a fantastic mechanism, the jumping the queue with the power of your dice. Yeah, you can jump the queue and be first player, but you won't have as much strength to do whatever actions you want to get the cards that you want, which is great. And then you have the cards themselves. Do you want this card because of its domain? Do you want this card because of its building? Or do you want it for its resources? There's all these little things that you've got to think about. And then there's the powers on all these senator cards. And there's just so much to think about in the game. If you really wanted a really deep strategy game, it's here. But if you want a light strategy game, it's here, because you just take cards and you can use them in any way. There's not this great diversity of different things that you can do, but they all kind of link together quite simply and quite neatly. The components are of good quality, the dice are nice, the arches are nice, the board is nice and sturdy, the card quality is great. The box insert it works, it's bigger than what you really need. There's like a big space to put lots of stuff, but then you only need 2 spaces to hold your components and your dices, and there. You only need those 2 small spaces, and that big space just goes to waste. Maybe it's an expansion. Maybe I should have said at the start that this game was a Kickstarter game, and it's a pretty good Kickstarter game as it stands, but the art in this game is a bit garish. I've taken this to many game nights and it always gets left on the side. It's the last one to be picked for the team because there's all these other games and they all look beautiful and they all have these stunning play me. This one doesn't, and it's been a real nightmare to get to the table. And the art goes into the cards, but I'm not going to say much about them apart from the way that they are placed. Okay, you have these very, very, very small numbers which you have to sort these out, and sometimes you will mistake a Roman numeral 3 with a Roman numeral 2 and then it'll come out of turn when you're playing the game and might muck the game up a bit. There are the little symbols which say don't use these on your first game because these are powerful cards. They can be a bit hard to differentiate from the others, and also there's the little tiny, just really tiny logos to say this is for 2-player games. Should be bigger, should be clearer. The logos and the icons themselves for what the powers are should be cleaner, should be easy to look at and go, oh yes, that does that. But unfortunately, you will have to keep referencing the book, which will slow the game down. And also, as I said, when you're doing a circus, that will slow the game down every round 3 and round 5 because you're looking to see what your best hand is and what your best chances of getting good points. Another bad thing is the board and the components. The colour palette that they've chosen looks like this game came from the 70s from Mattel. It's just garish. The having to stack tokens and that move all the time, they move by themselves as well. So when you're not looking, they move. Even though you're moving them when they're not moving, they fall over, they move everywhere. The scoreboard is just too close together. When people have got 3 points, 4 points and 5 points, it's really, really squashed together. You have to zigzag the tokens. Should have been bigger, should have been clearer, should have been separate. It should have been somewhere different. It just needs a complete graphical overhaul. All the iconography needs to be changed. All those little things just drag this game down from what could have been a 9 to a 7.5 in my opinion. The Rise to Power system is a system, and it's hopefully going to be used into another game with another theme maybe, and hopefully they will get all of this right, because all of that graphicism, bad choices of color palette just drag this game down really badly. But it is a really good, fun game. It's not too taxing, but it can be taxing if you want it to be. But with everything in life, you should never judge a book by its cover, and this game is testament to that. It looks bad, but it is a really good game. Go and check out Rome Rise to Power. And remember that you don't have to buy every single game out there. Just own some really good ones.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.